Hi, this is Allison Durant coming to you from my studio in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and I thought I would share a page from my 2024 Artist Almanac calendar, a collage, I almost said a collage Fodder resource and daily calendar. I will link this in the description, as I know some of you have reached out and you'd like to purchase this. They sold out really quickly from the artist group that was selling them, and do check out the Artist Almanac Facebook page, which I can link. So if you want to get one for next year, and maybe you're an artist that wants to learn how to be involved in it as well. So today is Friday, May 3rd. It's actually my niece's birthday today, so I just want to say a quick shout out to Danica. And Danica, happy birthday. So this is the art for Friday, May 3rd. I hope that you can escape into some wonderful adventures this year. And then for those of you that may be watching on another day coming up, maybe it's the weekend, this page just, I feel like it glows when I look at it. It has such beautiful colors, and this is Saturday, May 4th. I love the texture down here. You can see that this artist used a bit of stitching. And let's just cheat. Sunday, May 5th. And today I'll probably talk a little bit about mark making. That's a request that I get a great deal. So the last few videos I was showing you some watercolor backgrounds, and I often don't finish them during the video. I do separate videos on mark making. Like that one, Moments. And Tuesday, May 7th, those look like echinacea. We get those echinacea flowers growing in Calgary here. Okay, so that takes you to Wednesday, May 8th, and I hope to do a weekly video. I'm gonna see, just because my business has been keeping me really busy, my art business. And I wanted to say, so not only is it my niece's birthday today, but I got a birthday wish from YouTube because I have hit 10,000 followers, and I have been on YouTube for a year now. So it's my 1-year anniversary, and I suppose birthday. It was pretty exciting to wake up to just this following. I kind of pinch myself all the time. So thank you so much for everyone that has subscribed and has taken a risk following me. So I wanted to share as well a card from my art poetry deck. And today, let's just start with choosing a card at random, and we'll see what we get. So this is a 71 card deck of all of my art pieces that I felt were really sort of a cohesive group of works that I have done in what I would consider several of my styles. And I'm just gonna give them a little shuffle, and I'm not cheating. I'm looking out my studio window, looking at the houses across the street. Did I tell you that I'm gonna be moving into my own studio, which is going to be away from my home, but in the same city, and I'm super, super excited about that. So things are going to get busy for me this year, but really, really good busy, and that's going to be September of 2024. I hope to be able to give you guys a little tour in September or October, just on video here. So, and I got so excited I was distracted from my shuffling, and I looked, and I'm going to reshuffle, and I'm just going to choose this card. I'm going to cut the deck, and seeing if there's two cards stuck together. These are such thick cardstock, so 350 gram cardstock. And it's funny because I think this was the last card that I had pulled during my video with you earlier this week. So funny that I would choose this card again. So if you didn't catch that video, just a little backstory about this painting. Well, I shared quite a story about the synchronicity of how this painting kind of showed up for me when I was looking for it. So do catch that video because I'm not going to retell that story, but this is an original painting that has now been reproduced into print on these cards. The title of this painting is called Elements of Focus, and I tend to title my paintings based on my relationship with creativity. And without getting into too much more of an explanation, I feel like when I paint, sometimes I really like to focus on certain elements. And I have a lot of mountain paintings that have the word elements in them because I'm in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and I'm right beside the Rocky Mountains, and I'm sort of in Mother Nature's element. So I called this Elements of Focus because I was thinking about elements of art that we repeat, that we use in our style, and how they're all principles of art. So looking at elements from a design focus, but then also elements of focus, which is my personal artist voice focus, is through the eyes of seeing the mountains and this beautiful landscape of greens and turquoises and aquas. So show up, start the work, and see what happens. I feel like I do love to show up. I show up every day in some capacity. I just set really small goals for myself. As of the last 4 years, art has become a business for me, and it was a very conscious decision that I had made at the time. And although some days I feel like I completely just want to give it all up, I know that that is really kind of code for it's time to take a rest and step back and look after myself, self-care. And it really doesn't mean that I don't want to do art as a business anymore. It's just sort of a message to myself that I need to slow down and care for myself. So on those days, I just want to quit and give up everything because I find it so exhausting and frustrating. I have learned that that's just a message to get better sleep, look after my nutrition, just really take care of myself. And I'm starting to go off track here. So for a lot of you, I know you follow me because you enjoy creating and being inspired as a form of relaxation. And that's also very much my why and why I paint. I would just say for those of you that have reached out because you are looking to kind of move along your art business, I definitely have a lot of information I can kind of provide that what has helped me, and maybe I can just do a specific video just on that for you all. But what I wanted to say is just having one small goal every day is the reason that I am where I am today. It's just having that passion, that ikigai, that Japanese concept of what gets me out of bed in the morning. And I show up and I just start the work. I don't judge it. I mean, some days I do, but I just have ideas in my head and I get them out. I don't judge them, and it blooms from there. So I think this is just a message of encouragement for those of you that are maybe getting discouraged in your art practice, your art business, or, even art as relaxation. I know it can be tough to just turn off our minds, and part of my artist why is filtering out the noise of day-to-day life. The world has a lot going on, and the reason I created this deck, so again, for those of you that are kind of new to my channel, this is my art poetry painting titled Quiet. And the reason I chose this original art to go on the front piece of both the cards and the box was because my artist why is to create colorful, uplifting art that filters out that noise of day-to-day life, the noise that is just, you know, it's on the news, it's on social media, it's what we hear from others who are going through things or may have watched the news themselves. So it's just being able to just escape it ever so briefly into art. And, you know, so for me, art is that beautiful escape, and it's my passion. And this is becoming a bit of a monologue, and that's not my intention today. So I'm just gonna slip these cards back in their box, and that was our card today. So I'm gonna keep my focus because I'd chosen elements of focus. And I also just wanted to say to all of you that have purchased my deck, I am blown away. I was actually corresponding with an amazing person, Yale, I believe is the first name, and who is in Israel and who had purchased my deck as a birthday gift. So, you know, just having orders from New Zealand, Australia, Germany, France, China, Denmark, Switzerland, I am just so blown away. So I just wanted to say thank you. And I also want to read a little page from my book, How to Be More Tree, Essential Life Lessons for Perennial Happiness. And I'm just gonna, again, not really look, and I'm going to just pick a page. And this page is all about the beech tree. Timing is everything. So this is page 98 for those of you that might have this book. If you don't have the book, I will link it in the description. So timing is everything. Well, it is often great to take the initiative. Forcing something before it's ready rarely ends well. The multi-talented beech tree in particular knows this. Even though its roots have been gearing up for action all winter and it's looking forward to busting out some spring foliage, it still bides its time, waiting until there is at least 13 hours of light a day. Trees that jump the gun and leaf as soon as there is a warm spell often live to regret it. Sort of like when you put on flip-flops at the first sign of sun and then it disappears behind the clouds and your toes turn blue. So this really ties in actually with the art card elements of focus that I was just talking about, how timing is everything, and how if you just show up, even when you're tired, even if life gets busy, if you are passionate about it, find a way to fit it into your life, and just know that every small thing you do is going to add up to amazing things, even if it's, again, just sitting down and painting for maybe 5 minutes, just getting some paint supplies out, practicing, turning off the judgment. And, you know, I just think, you know, with my nursing background, having been in healthcare for many years, I think of how creating, I know for me, it lowers my pulse, my heart rate, it improves my blood pressure. Most importantly, it improves my mental health, and I really help manage my mental health through my art. That's why sometimes when the business gets busy, I really have to take a step back, because it can be a lot. But just knowing that putting in a little bit of time, just prioritizing one small thing every day, even if it's just watching a short video of an artist that might inspire you, or, you know, you're out for a walk and you see something and it just lights up something inside, you know, take note of that, and all of those things will add up. So I'm just going to leave you with that page about the beech tree, and I'm going to set that aside. And I just wanted to share a couple more awesome resources. So I'm gonna just take you guys up a notch. And there you can at least see the front of this sticker book. This is called Sticker Studio Flora, a sticker gallery of beautiful blooms over 850 artful stickers. These stickers were made by Chloe Standish. She is passionate about interior design and expresses her creativity through home decor, jewelry making, and travel. She lives in Colorado with her Yorkie named Bubbles. So many people have a studio buddy, don't they? I'm just gonna bring you up a little bit more here. Just gonna see if I can zoom out. Okay. No. Okay, so I'm gonna link this book. I purchased this probably over a year ago at Chapters Indigo. When I first published my art poetry deck, I was really hoping to incorporate stickers and something personal. And I ended up going with some different small kind of like, you know, whether it's a thank you card or an artist bookmark or a tiny, tiny piece of canvas material, I would try and put something in. But the intention was to use those stickers for my art deck. But then I really felt I just wanted it to be something more personal. So I wanted it to be my own stickers if I used them. So I think maybe initially I had put some on the box. And then when I went to mail the decks at Canada Post, the lady was really nice behind the counter because I had just launched my deck, and she said, "I'm really sorry, but I'm gonna have to cover up all of your stickers just because of where we put the label on the airmail." So that was learning, and that's okay. So anyway, I'm going off track, but I just wanted to show you Chloe Standish's stickers as they are so inspiring. And even if you can, you know, not copy them, but use them for your own purpose of inspiration. I like the idea of trying to, you know, do blind contour drawings where you are looking at, say, a flower and you're not looking at your page, and you keep your pencil or pen, whatever you're using, down on the page while you're training your brain how to kind of recreate something you're seeing in your own way. I really, really like how all these pages are so different in almost like theme, like kind of different seasons and different colors. Some are very tropical. Others make me feel like they're a bit more, you know, seasonal around holidays. Different places in the world, you know, desert botanicals. And I really, really like how on each page, in between the stickers, there's a quote. So this one, "Where flowers bloom, so does hope." And that's by Lady Bird Johnson. So sometimes I'll just flip through this book. And this one, "A tree is our most intimate contact with nature," by George Nakashima. So it's just a very, very beautiful book. It would be a great gift for somebody who is, you know, creative or, you know, likes kind of visual arts. And I just thought I would share this with you for those that it might be accessible for you if you're looking for new botanical inspiration. And the other one that I wanted to share is called the Botanist Sticker Anthology. This had so many familiar images in it, and I was trying to figure out why are these so familiar to me. And the reason is there's sort of a collaboration by Penguin Random House as the publisher. It was basically a collaboration between the Biodiversity Heritage Library and some museums and a couple universities, but primarily 616 images were from the Biodiversity Heritage Library. And if you have been following my videos, you know that I have recommended using those royalty-free images from a site called Flickr. And so this is kind of cool that you can actually get stickers, and a lot of those royalty-free images are in the form of stickers. So having this book now makes me feel like I almost want to do those blind contour drawings of these royalty-free images. I'm not a huge fan of the beetles and some of the bugs, and but I know I have someone in my family that would be all over that. So I'll have to get him to go through and zero in on what he wants in here. But just wanted to flip through. Mushrooms have been a bit of a trend in art, and it's kind of neat. Well, I don't even know if it's a trend. I mean, mushrooms have often been a subject of interest for artists, and there's so many varieties of mushrooms and plants, and there's no quotes on the pages in between, but a very, very beautiful book. I love the butterflies. I love the strawberries. And I'm just going to see if I have something that made me, I just wanted to show you something that I was working on. I'm just trying to think of where I put it. I was working on some line drawings, blind contour line drawings in my art journal, and I really love the way they turned out, and I'm just gonna see if I have those here. This is pretty neat. This is an entire sticker. I mean, I should get out my laptop or even cut out some of this and maybe use it as my iPhone case. Very, very beautiful. I mean, I could do that with my own art, but sometimes it's nice to have other people's art as well. Okay, let's see if I have that to show you all, my line drawings, and it must be somewhere else in the house. So another reason I'll be so happy to have a studio where everything is in one place. You would have a laugh because I actually just went through about 300 works on my website. I just revamped my website because sometimes if art is on paper, I never did an inventory. I never thought I would be selling my art the way I am. And so just in the last month, I've had a few people order pieces, and I said to my husband, oh my gosh, I don't know where they are. I've looked everywhere through all my piles, and eventually I had found them. But, you know, paper is great because it gets, you know, tucked in like a crystal clear bag, and, you know, I tuck it away in different places so it stays flat. But I have so much art that, anyway, it's like a good problem to have, right? So this is, again, the Botanist Sticker Anthology. I purchased this at Indigo in Canada, here in Calgary, Alberta. And so I imagine this is probably online as well. But the Botanist Sticker Anthology is just a really great, fun resource. And another thing, oh, I know, before I get started, I have somebody to thank because somebody, a beautiful creative from Alberta, rural Alberta, just an hour outside Edmonton, Jean, we connected through YouTube. She had started to write to me, and we kind of had this back and forth online, and anyways, it led to her saying, I really want to send you something in the mail. And long story short, I went to the mailbox yesterday, and there was a massive box, and I actually don't have a mailbox right outside my home. I have to walk a little ways to the mailbox. So I had taken Oakley, and he was on the leash, and I don't get a ton of mail, especially not like big packages. And anyways, I discovered this huge, heavy box, and it was quite a workout bringing it home. I ended up carrying on one of my shoulders the box while holding the leash in the other hand. And I really should have just made another trip, but this is what Jean sent me. So these are called color cubes, and for those of you that follow other artists on YouTube, you will recognize these color cubes because I have seen some other artists both on social media, Instagram, and on YouTube using these when they want to pick a color palette for an artwork they're doing on video. And anyways, I just wanted to say thank you, a huge shout out to Jean for sending me such a generous, beautiful gift that I, in my wildest dreams, didn't think I would purchase for myself. So this is just amazing. So we have a lot of inspiration ahead of us. If you haven't seen these cards, I still have to read a bit about them, but you can just see that they have these, all the codes, the names of the different colors. And on the back side, so not only are they numbered, and I think there's a lot more rhyme and reason to this than I'm sharing right now because I have to read. There's actually a little instruction card. But isn't this gorgeous photography where that color palette is pulled in to the image? Just really, really so inspiring. And I think, you know, right now in Calgary, it hasn't been very sunny, even though we're considered sort of the sunshine city. You know, it's been very, very dull. We've had a very, very cold April and May, flurries and snow and rain. And I've just been craving getting out of winter. So what a great thing to have at my fingertips to be able to use with you all on video. And this is kind of cool because we were just doing landscapes, and these photos are really neat, you know, kind of landscape art. So these are probably all organized in different topics. I think one I had pulled yesterday was the ocean, but I just had a quick peek. Oh, there's almonds on there. Let's see if we can find the instructions. Amazing. So it talks about using a color palette, how to match colors, something called hex codes, which I'll have to read about off camera, and tints and shades, which I am learning more about. Wow, that's just so amazing. Color names. So Jean, thank you for this incredibly beautiful gift. I really, really can't tell you how much I appreciate getting that. That was very thoughtful. I'm gonna just move these over, and I will be using those in my upcoming videos. And what I want to do is just get my table set up. I also, not only am I moving into a new studio, but I have started working with a wonderful friend and creative and business person, and her name is Vivi, and she has been unbelievably supportive and helpful to me. We just started working together, but I knew that I needed more help with my business just because I can't keep up with fulfilling orders, and she was the one that, oh, I see I got some dirty paint there. That doesn't look very nice, but she was saying how she had kindly watched one of my videos, and her and another person had mentioned the glare from this cover I have on my table. So I thought I would put down watercolor paper, and hopefully you won't have that glare, because I do want to really improve what it's like for you to view my videos. I'm going to be working on watercolor paper, and today I'm going to work on Canson XL watercolor paper. So this is 140 pounds or 300 grams. So you want to work on something at least 98 pounds, but I would say 140 pounds if you're using watercolor fluid paints. It just holds the paint better and it doesn't buckle as much. This is a 12 by 18 inch pad, but because I'm on video, what I'm going to do is I've just taken it and I'm just gonna work on half of this size because it's just a little bit easier for you all to see. So I thought we could just do, I don't really even know right now. I'm just getting out my paper. And what have we been up to? I could show you, okay, I could show you a couple of things that maybe Watercolor and mark making. Let's go to... I've had some requests for mark making. I'm just trying to decide where I want to do the mark making with you first. I think we could do a watercolor, just sort of a warm-up. And I'm gonna just bring you back down. And check out, I'm gonna zoom you. There we go. I think that looks pretty good, no glare. And I'm gonna activate my watercolors. I think I'm gonna do watercolor. I still don't know. So I'm just gonna, when I say activate my watercolors, I'm just gonna spritz. I have a bunch of dried watercolor from tubes in my palette here, a variety of brands. These awesome little shells are by Beam Paints, B-E-A-M, which I'll link in the description. And I'm just gonna set this over here, and I'll activate my little Beam Paints palette. Everything gets pretty wet when I'm in activation mode. And I think I'll probably start there. And just gonna move, I have a lot going on here today. And move some stuff. I'll probably use my Kuretake Japanese set, and we'll link that in the description. I'm going to activate those. And let's just see, my paper is curling a little bit. I think what we're going to do is just get some watercolor down on the page. So I don't really have any rhyme or reason right now. I'm going to just move you guys over here. So I'm going to use my number 12 round brush by Princeton. And what I'm thinking, I wasn't sure what I was going to do today. I'm going to start with doing some watercolor background, and eventually, thought we could maybe talk about mark making. These are some swatches I did back in 2020, so 4 years ago. And I have a little bit of, it's sort of when my art and I was combining words. So this one I have recognize what you can control. So I just happened to write that on this piece at the time. And I was just playing around with mark making, colors that I liked, new materials maybe that I had purchased. This one I actually think I signed upside down because I see it more like this versus I don't really like this composition as well. That's so interesting. This seems very, it's almost like I feel like I signed it the wrong way. Oh, here's one we can do mark making on. And because this is just a beautiful full composition where I have layered watercolors over the whole page, and then I can do mark making over top. So this will be a good one. Maybe we can do something like this first, create a background, and then do mark making over top. I'm just gonna set that one up here. Art is calling. So I was thinking the mountains are calling and art is calling. So that's what I had written 2020. I did not really feel confident in drawing, but I did those little butterflies and just some botanicals. This one, I do like this one. It's very simple, but I was playing around with using acrylic paint, mixing that bright fluorescent red paint with white and getting that vibrant pink. And I really like those bright pink polka dots actually on the red. And I want to show you, I've just started adding those to my landscapes that we are doing. So I haven't finished my mark making, but it's so interesting that that was a mark I discovered in 2020. And let's just see if I have it in here somewhere else. There it is. So here's my landscape art, and there's that neon pink dot. So that was something that kind of stayed in my creative memory bank from 2020. I really, really love that. I actually just purchased this pink pen from Kensington Art Supply, the art store here in Calgary, Alberta. And it's by Molotow, and I can link this in the description, but I really want to start refilling my own pens. So this was made in Germany, and it's non-toxic, which is great. It has fluid acrylic paint in it, and I had just purchased, not ideal, again, I'm buying more plastic, but I'm hoping to be able to refill this bottle with fluid acrylic and fill up a bunch of my Posca pens and this Molotow pen instead of buying them and not refilling them. I haven't thrown them out yet, but I do need to take the time to refill them. So I might just take several hours. I have a lot of pens, and refill the pen. It's messy, but you just take out the cartridge, you unscrew it. If there's a metal ball inside, this is what you'll also need to remember. Sometimes you have to take out that metal ball and remember to put it back in. But this is the tiny, it's almost like a fine liner, and I would refill it today, but I went to the store and they're all out of the fluid acrylic, so I'm just gonna wait. So we'll see how that works. I also had a comment from someone on my channel, it was just yesterday I read it, that said a really sort of more environmentally friendly way of doing mark making with ink is to have that permanent ink in a bottle and then use a dip pen. So that I'm gonna hopefully get into a rhythm of. It's gonna take time. Everything takes me a little bit of time. Habits die hard. Old habits die hard. This is another quote. This is a quote that I read in a book, or I heard from Chris Kozan. Chris Kozan, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but that canvas holds history. I heard her say that, or I read that somewhere. She's a wonderful mixed media artist, and I was inspired by those words. I think I was getting frustrated because I kept painting over and over layers of a canvas that just was not working for me. And this was again in 2020, but I had just written that canvas holds history. So just to remind yourself, there's nothing wrong with painting until you're happy and layering your art, covering it up, cutting it out, repurposing it. Here's some more mark making, and those birds kind of came to me with these swoopy lines back in 2020. My moon, it wasn't gold, but it was, that's quite dark, that looks black. So it's really interesting to go back and see some of this mark making I had done. And then what we can do is maybe we'll just do a little bit of a watercolor background, maybe similar colors to this. And I don't use purple much actually, so I'm going to be having to mix a bunch of red and blue. So I'm just going to grab some red. This is a beautiful, beautiful red by Beam Paints. I think that's their strawberry red. And where am I gonna, I'm just gonna mix it right, see if you can see this, just to get a purple. And where are we Is that blue or purple here? There we go, we've got a bit of purple. Oh, there we go. That's kind of a purple. It's not super vibrant, but I'm not too particular. So I'll kind of go with some of the same colors. And I'm working on a 140-pound Canson XL paper, that one that I ripped. And I'm just gonna see now the best way. Maybe I'll put my camera up just a little bit more. And I'm just gonna have a drink of water. And I'm just gonna put color down in different places, different sizes. And then now I'm gonna find a similar purple. I'm gonna mix up maybe one that's a bit darker. So I'm gonna put in a little bit more red. I love kind of that gorgeous shade. So I'm just gonna put that in different places on my page. And my goal for this is just relaxation and practicing, maybe mixing red and blue if you have it, or if you have, you know, an affordable watercolor that's already, you know, a purple, you can use that. I'm just looking behind me here, and I'm gonna grab, my son's, well, he has advanced to using beam paints because they're non-toxic. So beam paints, you can get so much paint out of these little canvas paint stones. So he's using those with me now. But when he was a little bit younger, and he didn't really, I mean, all of these paints would be mud if it was, you know, painting with him when he was younger, so around 2 or 3 years old. And anyways, what I'm getting at is this is a Crayola dollar store watercolor palette. So very, very affordable palette, and it has a couple shades of purple, which are beautiful. And so because we're just painting for joy and relaxation right now, or you might not be, but I am. And I'm just showing you that, you know, you can use more affordable paint. You know, this is a cheap watercolor paint, and you can use, you know, heavier 140-pound paper. I'm just mixing the red and the blue to see if I get a bit of a different shade. That's more of a navy. And I'm gonna switch over to yellow now. And oh, this is what's under here. I have 3 little palettes here. There's actually another purple. I think this came as a set, this trio, this row. And I like the dark as well. So I'll just dip in, I think it's like a black. It'll probably, oh, that's a brown, that's okay. So is that, there's the black. I'm just gonna put that in there as sort of a neutral, and I'm kind of doing the same shape, but my recommendation would be just to try different shapes and see what you like. And I like that there's white on here. I'm getting quite a bit of pigment, and I'm just gonna move the white around and let it touch into the areas that are still wet, and I'm not overthinking it, I'm just playing. And my next move would be to add yellow, which is the complementary color of purple. And I really didn't need to use my beam paints. This is good. So I have a good brush. I mean, that does help, but any watercolor brush will do. I'm using a round number 12 Princeton brush, and I really use a round brush for both acrylic painting and watercolor painting, but you have to be careful. You don't want to use your watercolor brush with acrylic paints because they're plastic and they will ruin your brush. Now I'm just going to flip over to this yellow to see if it's the same. It looks a little bit lighter, and I'm just going to drop it in to certain areas, and I want it to be a bit more vibrant. So I'm going to flip back to my Fall Poplar Yellow by Beam Paints. I have a laugh because I was just thinking right now I don't know why, as I was grabbing the Fall Poplar Yellow, I was thinking about my thumbs. You're probably like, why are you thinking about your thumbs? And my mom, when I started my YouTube channel about 6 months ago, she's like, has anybody mentioned your thumbs yet? And I was like, no, nobody's mentioned my thumbs. And she's like, oh, that's really funny. And I said, well, maybe they're not that unusual. And we had a laugh because my mom, well, actually, I don't even think it's genetically from her, and it's not from my dad. So I have very stubby, short thumbs, and I feel like I should have painted my nails because I'm highlighting them now, but stubby, short thumbs. And it wasn't until I was on YouTube doing these videos for a year. So, you know, again, it was my 1-year YouTube anniversary last week that somebody had finally commented. They made the comment, big toe thumbs. And so I had called my mom and I said, okay, somebody did it. And she's like, did what? And I said, they discovered and they identified I have big toe thumbs. And anyway, we had a laugh about that because in high school, I had a wonderful group of friends, but they would really tease me. And a few of the guys I remember in some of my classes they would be like, thumbs up, Allison. and they would like, check out those thumbs. And you know, and I was fortunate that I guess I had enough confidence not to let it bother me. And I'm not sure why I'm telling you this. I just had this flash when I was going to my Fall Poplar Yellow that I had to tell you about my thumbs. And my mom's like, well, you should tell them. She's like, that it's a sign of creativity and intelligence, and having thumbs that size, total sign of creativity. And I was like thinking that's a great idea. And I told her, I responded to this person who wrote, you know, nice big toe thumbs or whatever. And so right on my channel, I could have deleted the comment, but I wrote back and I said, yes, my thumbs are what makes me a great artist. So anyways, yeah, that's just kind of funny. So I'm not too worried about my thumbs. I do hope maybe my son doesn't adopt my big toe thumbs, but I think he's in the clear. They look more like my husband's. They're like, you know, but it makes me just like think of like these artists like who went through bullying and that were so underappreciated. You know, Maud Lewis, how she was so crippled from, I believe it was rheumatoid arthritis, and you know, so sad that you know, if you look at that movie Maudie, how she was so bullied by both adults and kids in school. And it's very upsetting that the world can be so cruel, you know, or having to find things, right, that just picking on people for no reason. So, and what I haven't told you guys on my channel is, growing up, I spent a lot of summers in Nova Scotia, and my grandparents who lived in Middleton, Nova Scotia, when I would go over and, you know, stay with them at their house, at their kitchen, on the wall was a Maud Lewis original painting. And I didn't share that in my last videos, but I do love Maud Lewis because it reminds me of my childhood, all the joy it makes me emotional, all the joy I got from spending time with my grandparents, my childhood, and looking at, it was those 3 black cats. It was this trio of black cats. If you don't know Maud Lewis, her work is very much like folk art, and she painted probably as an escape. And I won't get into the story, but you can watch the movie Maudie, Maudie, and not everybody reviewed the you know, it's all personal preference. One artist I really admire was like, oh, I didn't like that movie at all, it was so slow. But for me, I had gone to the theaters with my parents to see it, and that was before, I think it was before I actually was painting as an artist. So it wasn't that long ago, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. We went to, I remember, the cheap theaters here in Calgary to watch Maudie and learn more about her story. And I think it's Ethan Hawke that's the actor in that movie. And I forget who played Maudie, but I don't know why. I was just, yeah, that's just a little story about my thumbs and about Maud Lewis and how her work has inspired me, because I just really, I love that she just painted, again, she just showed up every day. She painted every inch of her tiny, tiny home that was more like a shack. And I think it was in Digby, Nova Scotia, that she was selling her paintings, but didn't have a supportive husband. He just, he became a challenge to her selling her work. And it was just very sad that she was not alive to see all of the fans that she has. Okay, so that was distracting because I wasn't telling you what I was doing, but if you were watching, you could just see I was randomly dropping in colors. And I think while I was talking, I was out of my head and I put down metallics. So I used golds and bronze, iridescent bronze. I think those were Daniel Smith that I was using from my palette. So in here, I do love iridescent copper, iridescent bronze, and iridescent gold. So the other gold I love is Beam Paints this little seashell, and this is their gold mica, non-toxic, beautiful paint, beautiful shimmer. So I added the metallics, but I just wanted to show you how I get this kind of loose background where I'm filling up the whole page. And it's a little bit different than my art poetry style, where I use blank space as a resting place for the eye. I love using blank space in my work. I think of it as a pause during a conversation that may otherwise be thought of as an awkward silence. I think of the blank space as a freeze dance where someone is dancing, there's a ton of movement, and then they pause, and the audience just takes in that pause like it's this incredible highlight of the movement. And because of that contrast between moving and then pausing, the dance, that's what I think about when I see negative space or blank space in my work. I also, though, love to mix it up. And when I first, well, I think with my acrylic painting, more than my watercolor, I do paint the whole paper. So I'll show you one of the things I think I may do on video with you. I'm gonna do a little bit of mark making, but I see that I don't have a ton of time today. That was fun, just getting out that beautiful background. I wanted to show you this painting. And also, so this is a painting I did in 2021, and I was still trying to emulate and find my own style. And I had these backgrounds that were very much like, okay, well, right now I'm trying to take this painting out of its frame. I'm just gonna take this out. So this is titled Hold On to Hope, and it was painted in 2021. We are still going through lockdown here. And I think we are dealing with a lot of illness in our family at that time. But I'm gonna move this glass frame and show you this painting. So I'm gonna just put this really carefully because I have kids. I'm going to just fix this glass so nobody gets hurt. So I'm just gonna set this aside. Okay. So this was a style I had kind of found in 2021, and I'm gonna just zoom you all back in so you can see the details. And I'm very jittery today. I had a little bit of tea and caffeine, and that was not the best idea. But my son was home from school the last few days under the weather, so today it was his first day back, and I was needing to caffeinate myself just to kind of get moving. Hold on to hope. So that's what I was thinking at the time, and I think of this because underneath is all watercolor primarily on 140-pound Arches paper, so it was a really high quality paper. But it was all of these loose watercolor layers in colors that I just really felt looked good together, and I was just playing around, and it became really interesting to me. It was very much like this kind of background, very busy, but having like places where you could just, if you put like almost if you were looking through like a porthole of a boat or a window, you could see something beautiful. You know, zeroing in on the beauty amidst the chaos. So if you think about that, I actually have another one to share. So this would be an example of another background that I can't wait to go over. So I'll probably cut this paper just to make it a smaller painting. And I'm gonna do the style here where I call it Windows of Hope. So the painting itself reads Hold On to Hope, but I think of this, especially during 2021, when we were going through a lot of stuff with the pandemic, and art was my escape, it was my relaxation, my outlet. I'd paint these watercolor backgrounds, and I was practicing transparency. So you can see the transparent layers of this red kind of going over top of that darker blue and over this kind of rusty red. And I purposely probably had gone over in circles, so I chose a shape. I've done leaves before. I mean, it's sort of like reductionistic painting. For those of you that know reductionistic painting, you're carving out images with something that's more opaque, or a different, say, a different type of paint, like maybe an acrylic paint, an ink. I love to do this with ink. You're choosing a shape or finding shapes, and you're just highlighting them by painting around them. So this was all done by me using white opaque paint over top of the watercolor. And what I had used was probably, you know, this isn't a good example, but I would choose a round shape, you know, whatever I had in my house. And obviously this is small, but I would put it down and I would just pencil around it, or I would use like a water-soluble pencil crayon that I could remove later and blend. And I would make these shapes. So for me at the time, I was under lockdown, looking out my window, looking for beauty, looking for hope, looking for signs that things were going to improve. And so anyways, there's so much you can do once you get that watercolor down. And if you don't like it, you can go over it with acrylic paint. It will move some of that water-soluble watercolor, but it's all just this beautiful experimentation, and it's fun. And so if you take away the judgment and just play, you will come up with this kind of thing in your own voice. So I thought, you know, today this video is, I'm getting to an hour right now, but I just wanted to introduce you to this idea. And this is where I zeroed in on mark making in these little windows, or, you know, portholes, whatever you want to call it. I was thinking more in the first painting I showed you. This painting, I was thinking of it more, oops, sorry, I guess it could go, no, it does, yes, it does go this way. I guess it could go anyway, really. But I was thinking about highlighting mark making by looking through these windows that I was creating with acrylic paint that was opaque, and you can still see some of the layers of the transparent watercolor underneath. You know, if you look really closely, you can see those shadows, and I love that. I didn't want to cover all of that up, but I was highlighting mark making that I love. So I love polka dots. I love those marks kind of coming down almost like rain, but, you know, beautiful raindrops, golden raindrops. I love the botanicals and the leaves, and I was playing with line work that kind of made the eye follow around the painting. Then I used different types of gold in acrylic paint, and I just really loosely went around some of those shapes with other materials. So a great exercise in just play. And so I did a whole series of Windows of Hope, and I was really lucky. I sold out of that series, and this one I had on my wall. I think I'm ready to probably list it. And again, as I mentioned earlier, I'm revamping my website, and I went through about 300 works, what's print, what's original, and you know, so my walls are changing as I get ready for my new studio. So this is going to be a base for one coming up. And so what I suggest is getting some of these backgrounds where you have all this beautiful color. I mean, this is a great thing to do with, you know, if you have kids or grandkids, or, you know, friends that just want to get together and paint with you. Decide what shape do you want to carve out, and, you know, is it like, this would be a really cool shape, even though it's not fully circular. Using maybe like triangles, or what shape speaks to you, and practice finding a paint or a style, a medium that you like, and then going over top. So I think I'll probably leave that here, but before we go, I did want to do a tiny bit of mark making. So I love using water-soluble crayons, pencil crayons. So because this is still wet, I have an opportunity to use water-soluble mark-making supplies. And I just happened to see the Supercolor Too Soft by Caran d'Ache crayon, number 3888, olive. And I just feel like it would look awesome in here. You can see where the gold, the blue, the yellow, it created almost this color. I'm gonna very loosely, I'm gonna use my left hand and just very loosely do some marks, go through the paint, and just see what I get. And then I reevaluate it. So I decide, okay, how did that feel? It felt really good to me, probably from having cabin fever, having my son home sick, and now he's better. I have energy. So I'm gonna grab my pink and I'm gonna repeat it, and I'm gonna really loosely, oh, there's my timer, do that with the pink. So I'm just letting out energy and kind of scribbling into the wet watercolor. You gotta love my old school timer. I'm so funny. I'm very resistant to change. So good thing I have an assistant who helps nudge me into the right direction. Thank you, Vivi. I would not be here today doing a video if it wasn't for you in the last few weeks. So those are pencil crayon marks. You can use a pencil, like, you know, maybe you have access to a very affordable, you know, Crayola watercolor set, but you don't have fancy mark making tools. Use a pencil. There is so much beauty in using pencil, a lead. So you know, I'm just going to kind of highlight this area with a really loose flower and maybe just some loose leaves. It's probably hard to see, but artists like Betty Franks Krause, you know, mark making, she uses in just about all of her paper and canvas work, her fields of flowers, she uses pencil underneath often. And you can just play around, you know, maybe do some line work. Right now I'm kind of tuning out the fact my timer went off and I'm just in the moment enjoying the process. And I'm creating areas of interest in this really, really chaotic background that eventually I'm gonna zero in on what I want to keep and what I want to almost white out. And I do think of, you know, using whiteout in my younger days. They have better whiteout now, which is pretty cool. But when I used to use whiteout, I mean, it's very much, I was using this white paint over top of the watercolor layers. And it was just such a fun experience because it was like I was editing my work, learning what I loved, keeping what I loved, and getting rid of what I didn't like. So that's kind of what I want you to think of if you're looking for some inspiration around watercolor backgrounds and then taking them to the next level. So maybe you're not ready to take it to the next level at this point, and that's okay. You just might want to create all of these beautiful backgrounds. And I'm going to just flip over to a slightly larger, excuse my reach, a slightly larger water-soluble crayon, my Stabilo Woodies, which are some of my favorite things to work with when I'm art journaling and just playing. They're incredible. This color, this sort of peachy color, these are chunky, they're great for kids, or, you know, I have a tremor and I'm just looking, where would I want to put this color? I'm going to just put it over by the gray and just do some marks. And because this is water soluble, I can go right into the water. And it changes the way it looks on the page. And I like the way it changes. I like the way the mark picks up that purple. And then you can just see when I repeated it, it went back to that peachy color. And maybe you want to pick a color that would really stand out. So, you know, I'm thinking maybe orange, and just doing, maybe doing some circles. And again, because it's water soluble, you can go right through anything that's still wet. This is where you do not want to use your acrylic your acrylic paint pens. It will ruin the paint pen when it's wet like this. And, you know, just using this almost like a playground for experimentation. And this is really what art journaling is. It's just, this is us right now not working in a book. It's, you know, a torn page out of a book, or, you know, out of a stack of paper. But this is why I have such a love for art journaling, is because the possibilities are endless. It's, you know, a process that's really, really incredible for our mental health. You know, as long as we don't allow it to control us, as long as we can kind of keep ourselves in check, that, you know, we're not doing perfect marks. We're just enjoying the process. We're learning from the process. And you'll be amazed when you kind of let go and you paint like this, you create like this, it will resonate with other creatives, other people. So again, I know not everybody is thinking business at all, but because that's where I'm at right now in my kind of stage of my art journey, I do like to just remind you that don't get discouraged if you have not found your voice. It takes so much kind of dedication to just showing up and fitting it into, you know, your busy lifestyle if you can. Sometimes I try and fit it in, you know, it can be really hard to fit it in, but I think, you know, I'm lucky because my son is 6, and so he's at the age where it's actually really fun to learn from him and to paint with him and to create with him. And so for me, you know, I try and say, okay, this is my opportunity to kind of bond with him and also get out my own creative energy that, you know, when he's, say, homesick with me, it's something that I otherwise couldn't do. I'm just adding some silver for fun, and I'm just gonna let this dry. Once it dries, I can go back over it and create some really beautiful shapes and carve out things. And this one is so funny. I meant to go back to today and I didn't. And that's the beauty of these unedited, unplanned, random inspiration videos. I'm really grateful that you all still enjoy them. I've had so much incredible feedback, so thank you so much. I also wanted to just share how much I appreciate everybody reaching out. And I think when I first started YouTube, I was like, please, like, email me, like, reach out on Instagram, and like, you know, I'll get back to you. And up until today, I've been really, really good to be able to get back to everybody. But somehow, and again, this is such a good thing, I've gone from, like, my following on, again, here and Instagram has bloomed beyond my imagination, that I actually have been not being able to keep up with getting back to people, at least not in a good time frame. So if you're okay with it, to leave comments on YouTube here is the best place, especially if you think it's a question someone else might have. It helps me, it helps other people. And I do tend to respond to my comments on here as best I can within, you know, I don't know, 72 hours. I'm not going to put a deadline on it because I am a busy mom, and, you know, things change, you know, can change within minutes. But just know, if you have reached out in another form, I may not get back to you as fast. The best way is my email, which is hello@alisondurant.com, through my website, or through on YouTube, if you feel like it's something you are okay to share with other people and that it might help. So I'm so sorry for having to, like, channel everybody back into my email and on here, but I never thought I would be over 10,000 followers on here, because I just started last year. So I'm pinching myself, and hopefully Vivi, if you're listening, I appreciate you, and she's gonna help me kind of learn to better manage this business and keep up while I can still be a good mom and get my orders fulfilled. Okay, that was my spiel. I wonder if I can leave you with, I know, let's pick I kind of want to pick a color cube card. Oh, and I'm going to open this box. Oh my gosh, these are so heavy. I could probably be doing bicep curls with these because they're so heavy. I'm going to open this one because I think it's different. Okay, here we go. Ugh, I just want to take a huge chunk. Okay, I'm going to try and pick one randomly. Oh, that one looks really pretty. Oh, both of these are really pretty. almost my lunchtime, so this is making me hungry, these M&Ms. And isn't this cool though? So number 33, how a photo of M&Ms can provide color inspiration, like a color palette, from them being on a brown table. And, you know, if you're a follower of my videos, you'll know that I do kind of recommend, if you're trying to paint to find a style and possibly sell your work, that it can really highlight, if you like to use bright colors, it highlights them more when they're next to a neutral. So you can just see in this card, this is a good example of this Titan buff or kind of beige, and this more of a brown, you know, that brown table setting. It actually pulled together a really interesting color palette. So thinking outside the box, outside the cube, is when you're, you know, in your home environment or your outside environment and you don't really think there's a whole lot to inspire you, you know, just think again. This next one, well, this is, I mean, beautiful. So there's a color palette and there's the neutrals, neutral, or you could use the neutrals of these different shades of blue and this gray. And if you look at this doesn't have a lot of neutral actually, but the pink and the green, they're complementary colors, those shades, they're across from each other on the color wheel, so it works really nicely. And not many of us can have like a real bouquet to get inspiration, so this is just so cool. Thank you again, Jean, for these cards. These are amazing. I'm gonna pull, I'm gonna actually maybe, I'll just pull one more card, maybe from my art poetry deck. And where did that go? Oh, there it is. We'll just see what card we get. And okay, so this is my painting, which was titled Influence of Asia. And when I was growing up, and actually still, so my parents live in the city, we're about 20 minutes away from each other. I see them all the time. They're my biggest fans, my biggest inspiration and role models. And my mom decorated the house, our house, and still has a lot of influence from Japan, from Asia, so much beautiful, beautiful art. So I called this Influence of Asia, because just growing up, I feel like I didn't really notice it until I started painting, that a lot of my work does have a slight, maybe, influence from different countries, from mostly Japan. I think of cherry blossoms and this beautiful, beautiful pink, and sort of, how do you say, I don't know what it is, but people have looked at my art. When I did a big art show where there was a lot of public and they would come and look at my booth, a lot of them said, wow, I really see that influence of Japan. So I don't know, it's kind of cool. But this was called Influence of Asia, and I had written the words with gratitude on this painting. And I do make prints of this painting because I love it. It was almost like a happy accident. In another video, I spoke about how the accident had come about with spilling some acrylic inks and then getting this really light pink background. Now this card makes it more saturated, but the original piece of art had a very light pink background and these gorgeous fuchsia splotches of ink. And then I just used my water-soluble pencil crayons and just kind of was playing around, and I really learned quickly that I loved it, and I had posted it and it just sold, you know, immediately, again, because funny, I wasn't trying too hard to make it a painting to sell. And this brings me to the end of my video and reminding everybody that creativity is so good for our mental health, but so is the practice of gratitude and gratitude journaling. And if there's any way you can somehow think of, you know, just 3 things that you're grateful for, or just one thing while you're creating, maybe while you're sitting down and you're writing. If you keep a journal, considering kind of incorporating it into more of a gratitude journal. And you don't even have to really write the gratitude, the words, you can just think of them. Maybe you can paint while you're thinking about something you're grateful for and just see where that takes you, because I think it can put your mind in the most amazing place when you turn on that gratitude and creative thinking, and the possibilities are endless. So practicing gratitude every day. Thank you. I'm grateful for all of you, and I will see you soon.